Today I will be interviewing Stephen Draper. Stephen, would you like to come in and join me?
Thank you for having me over, Ben.
You're welcome. Just a couple questions for you. First off,
glad to.
Can you explain to me where you grew up and some of your experiences in that area?
I grew up mostly in Michigan, and we lived in a house in a subdivision there with a big forest behind it. And we'd have a good time playing in the forest. There were a bunch of other neighborhood kids. We'd pretend we were in the army. We'd run around in the run around in the forest. We built some tree forts, and it was a fun place.
All right. Can you explain to me the different places you have lived over your life? Some different areas you've
I've lived all over. So in Michigan, I've lived in a couple different houses. That one I told you about. When I was 10, we moved to Indiana for a couple of years. It was a small town. I lived in an old 100-year-old home there. Then I went off to school in Utah. So I lived in Utah for a period of time after I got out of school. I went to California, and then back to Utah, and for the last 4 years I've been here in Texas and really enjoy it.
Can you relate to me some of your childhood memories, most cherished childhood memories?
Well, there's so many different fun memories. One that comes to mind is just because I told you about that house in Canton where we lived in that subdivision with the big forest behind it. There were squirrels in that forest. And once a squirrel came up on our patio, and we got the bright idea of putting some Cheerios out for it to see if it would eat them. Because I think they were honey nut Cheerios, and we knew that squirrels like nuts. So we put them out there, and the squirrel actually picked it up. I didn't realize they had like little fingers on their hands. They picked it up like it was a donut, like a wheel, and they started eating it and spun it around until it was all gone, like peeling an apple core or something. It was really fun to watch it. So we had a little, almost like a pet squirrel that came over and we would feed it when it came by. But then what happened was we heard that some of the animals in the forest might have rabies. And we were not supposed to feed them because they could get too friendly with us and then bite us. So we had to stop feeding the squirrel. He came by a few times and we just left the patio door shut, and eventually he stopped coming with me.
Alright, now can you tell me some of the names of your family when you grew up and the names of your family members now?
Well, I had a mom and a dad. David and Janice were their names. We called them mom and dad. Now, he was from a big family. There were 7 of us. So my oldest brother was Bob. He was 4 years older than me. And Laurie was just 2 years older than me. And there was me. And then my younger brother, Jeff, who was 2 years younger than me. We used to run around a lot together. And then we had Lisa, and then Ben and Tom. And now, I'm married to my wife, Janet. I have, my first son was born 14 years ago. I can't believe he's already 14. He's a sharp-looking young man who plays freshman football for Marcus. We really like Ben. And we have Preston. He's 12 years old, plays 7th grade football. He likes to play with his friends and read a lot of books. And we have Nathan, who's 6 years old. He loves being in 1st grade. And we have a little baby girl who's 18 months old. She's not so much a baby, she's more of a toddler, but she's a joy to us.
Alright, can you tell me some things that you enjoy doing with your family now?
Well, we like to, we have an activity once a week where we call it family home meeting, where we have a lesson, we have treats, and we have a good time together. On Saturdays, sometimes we have a boat that we bought this year. We like to go out tubing on the boat, and up to Lake Grapevine or Lake Louisville, have a good time there. I do like the outdoor activities. I like to camp. Once we went camping as a whole family. But it got a little cold for the girls, but I do like to camp with my older boys too.
Alright, can you tell me a unique hobby of yours, something that you enjoy doing?
Oh, that's easy. Although I haven't done it recently. It is very unique. When I was about your age, I was 14 years old. I read some books on beekeeping. Not sure why I read them. They were in my dad's library. But I realized, hey, this would be really cool. You build these beehives, you put bees in them, and then they gather honey for you. So I just set about doing it. I had a friend who had some old beehives. I cleaned them up. The bees were long gone. I bought some bees to put in them, and we started making honey and selling it. It was pretty fun. It was pretty cool to have tens of thousands of bees that were working for me, helping to make honey.
Do you have any experiences with this unique hobby of yours that you'd like to share with us?
Well, there was one time normally when you go to a beehive, you have what's called a smoker. It's a can that you have smoldering wood and paper in it that makes a lot of smoke. And you puff some of the smoke into the beehive. And and that calms down the bees, so they act really peaceful and kind and calm. We did that once, and we got used to working with the bees, and there was one time we just had to open up the cover of the beehive really fast, put a cover on, put a special excluder in there, and then close it back. And we decided not to bother with the smoke, because the bees were nice anyway. So as soon as we cracked open the beehive, it's the first time, only time I've ever tried to open a beehive without smoke. It felt like 100 killer attack bees flew straight at us and started biting us. I dropped my equipment and ran as fast as I could. My little brother Jeff, he was carrying a big box of beekeeping equipment, and he lost his presence of mind. Bees were swarming all over him, stinging him, and he was trying to get away, but he forgot to let go of the box. He was going really slow, trying to get away. He got stung all over, and he started swelling up, had an allergic reaction. Had to give him Benadryl, and the doctor said if he gets stung again, he could die. So we had this pin, this EpiPen injection needle that I was supposed to stab into his leg next time he got stung. So I was waiting for him to get stung so I could stab him, but he never got stung again. So we never used the needle.
All right. Could you tell me how you would describe yourself?
I'm sometimes a little bit quieter at first when I get to know people, and then I get really outgoing and talkative. I like to get into the details and understand things, and that makes me good at my job. I'd say one of my strengths is being very analytical and detailed. I use it in my job to understand all the pieces of how health insurance works. I can talk to you more about that later if my career is of interest to you.
All right, and can you share with me some more of your activities that you do, such as hobbies outside of work?
I spend a lot of time camping with a youth group at church. I enjoy that. Once a month we go camping, I do hiking. Like I said, as a family, we like to go boating on Lake Grapevine and Lake Louisville on the weekends. I do spend some time on Sundays going to church and those activities. I stay really busy outside of work. Sometimes it's just helping kids with homework and everything else.
Could you list me some accomplishments that you're proud of over your life? Some things that you've done that you're really proud of?
Two things come to mind that I set a goal for and I achieved. One was when I was 13, I joined this Boy Scout group. And we just did fun activities, but I heard I could get my eagle, and my dad had that, and I wanted to do what my dad had done. So I found a way to go to get the badges. I went to summer camps, and I'd never gone to summer. Other kids in my troop weren't going to summer camp, but I went without anybody else sometimes. Just me and my brother went. And I did what it took to earn my badge, and I slowly earned everything over 3 years. Another thing that I did was when I started my career as an actuary, I had to pass a series of exams in order to be successful and fully credentialed. So I set a goal to pass all those exams, and it can take 5 to 6 years to finish passing them.
Wow.
I did it in 5.5 years, and was really proud of that. And I got a pay raise when I passed them all too, which was good.
Can you list for me some of your strengths and weaknesses that you feel you have?
I think one of my strengths plays well with my job that I already mentioned, is that I like to understand the details of how something works. It's not enough for me just to know that something works or that it's a certain way. I like to know how it works. Sometimes I like to take things apart to see how they work. And in my job, I like to understand the details of what's going on with health insurance, and I'm helping to analyze all the pieces and see how they all fit together. Because I'm so interested in so many different things and in my job and how the health insurance works or in other things that I do, I'm interested in other things as well, and so I get easily distracted because I'm interested in so many different things. So that's probably one of my biggest weaknesses, is just being too quickly distracted to go do something else. Sometimes I feel like that show, The Absent-Minded Professor, although I'm not a professor.
Alright, so on the note of your job, what is it that you do, and what does that profession entail?
Well, I'm a health insurance actuary. My specialty is to work with employers that offer health insurance. So if you go get a job somewhere, often they'll give you health insurance as part of your job. I figure out how much that insurance should cost and what you ought to pay for it out of your paycheck versus how much your employer that you work for should be paying. My goal is to make it as the least expensive as possible and still give people good health insurance coverage, because nobody wants to pay too much for insurance. You don't want to buy more than you need. So that's what I do. I help people get good, cost-effective health insurance.
Can you give me an example of, in your workplace, a clever idea you came up with for motivating somebody, a coworker?
I had a coworker I was working with once. He was a newer actuary, and sometimes it took him a little longer to get things done because he was so carefully thinking about everything. And I needed to have something done by the end of the day. It was a Friday, and neither of us wanted to work over the weekend, and we didn't want to have to work late on a Friday. So first thing that morning I said, hey, we need to get this thing done today. I said, and if we both get it done by 4 o'clock, we can both leave early. We don't need to stay till 5 o'clock if our work's done. So let's have a good night tonight by getting our work done early. So check in with me as soon as you have any questions. Let's not wait. And we had early conversations on it, got everything worked through, and got it done.
All right. Can you describe for me a time when perhaps in your work that you made a mistake and how that illustrated an area you needed to improve on in your professional career?
One mistake that was made was I told an employer they were making all sorts of changes to their health insurance to help save a little money. And one of them we said would save $600,000. We looked at the numbers later and we decided that we realized that there was a small error in our calculations. It was really only going to save $450,000, so 3/4 as much. It was still good savings, but not what we told them. So we double checked it and made sure. And it's always important to double check before any mistakes are made. So we double checked it and we just went to them and said, hey, this isn't going to save quite as much money as we thought. It's still a good savings, but not as much. And they said, we're so glad you came to us and told us that because we were thinking about not making that change. And now that we know it's only $450,000, we're just not going to do it. And that's so much better than having them actually do it and then not get the savings they were thinking.
So what are some of your goals or things you aspire to do in your profession?
My next goal is to become a partner in my firm. That's one more promotion. It means that I'll be helping to sell some work rather than just doing it and interacting more directly with my clients. And I'm excited to work towards that.
All right, so can you give me some of your attributes that in your workplace or even outside of work that sort of set you apart from other people?
I think that I try to understand any problems that I'm approaching thoroughly, get all the information, and I try to work with, I have a lot of younger, more junior actuaries that I work with. I try to make sure that they understand the tasks that are given and thoroughly explain things to them and help them grow and learn along the way. I think some other actuaries just try to get the job done. I try to help everyone that I work with become better in the process.
Can you tell me a time when you made a quick decision in your career that you were proud of or that you were glad that you made the decision, sort of on the moment?
Yeah, normally we're very detailed and we run a lot of numbers. I was in a situation where one of my clients was in a very tight situation, bargaining some benefits, and they had to know quickly what a number was. And so I sketched out, well, what's the most it could be, what's the least it could be, and I picked a number in the middle and said, here's a number that it's going to be close to. I said, I don't have time to run all the numbers, but I want you to know that this is a big deal. This is the type of number it could be, and I'll follow up with an exact number later. They appreciated the fact that I was able to give them that number quickly, but I had to make it clear that it was a very rough estimate.
All right, so I'm glad that I had the chance to interview today, and I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me over. I appreciate it and hope that you do well in your interviewing process.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.